Now, the Ukraine Peace Summit in Switzerland has concluded. Of course, a lot of topics were touched upon, and joining us right now is our guest, Yevheniia Kravchuk, Deputy Chair of the Ukrainian Committee on Humanitarian and Information Policy, to give us an outlook on this specific peace summit. Hello, and welcome to TVP World.
Thank you. Thank you for having me and bringing up this topic.
All right, so first, can you help us round up some of the most important points of these peace summit that have just taken place?
Well, first of all, the organization of this summit started in 2022, and here we are. I mean, the whole idea of bringing the world on some peace plan started in 2022. And here we are with more than 100 countries and international organizations on the board discussing the concrete steps that could be taken and should be taken to just peace, because it's very important. And we've heard dictator Putin trying to disrupt this summit, having this press conference or whatever it was just the day before. And it also shows that Russia is afraid of a world being united on the UN Charter, I would say, because that's all about the rules that were already written in United Nations Charter. And what we heard means that Russia is seeking a time for regrouping, some sort of freezing the conflict, because they see that still in the third year of the full-scale invasion, they do not have the capacity to occupy Ukraine. But of course, they want to hold the occupied territories. So that's why they try to elude the world, saying that they want peace. But of course, they want just a break.
All right, so can you help us understand the decision to bar Russia from participating in this peace summit, as people would argue that enable to achieve peace, a negotiation needs to take place, and a dialogue cannot just go one way. So can you help us understand the decision?
Well, remember about the Second World War, the Tehran conference that was in the middle of the war didn't have Nazi Germany on the board. And even Yalta conference didn't have Nazi Germany on the board, although it was the end, almost the end of the full-scale war. So it's not coincidental that country that is not willing to talk on the common ground on the United Nations Charter and the respect to sovereignty of other countries is not invited. So at first we need to put all of the plans together to articulate them, and then together send it to Russian Federation, which is an aggressor. It's not a dispute between Ukraine and Russia, to make it clear. Russia invaded Ukraine, and the invader has to be punished, and the just peace has to stay on the sovereignty of Ukraine.
Right, so a lot of commentators have been describing this peace summit as a coalition building exercise, saying that it is essentially Ukraine gathering all its cards on the table before going to the negotiation table and laying the cards down in front of Putin. Do you think this has been successful when it comes to building that coalition and coming up with these talking points in order for the next step of negotiation?
Well, first of all, I would also look at the broader picture, not just summit itself, because just a few days before it, we had G7 meeting in Italy and Apulia, which also articulated support to Ukraine, and not just words, but also made clear that Ukraine will get another $50 billion, and those money will come from the tax revenues from the frozen assets of Russia. So basically, Ukraine will be using the revenues of frozen frozen Russian assets to fight a war, because this money will go to humanitarian purposes, to budget support, but also to defense purposes. So I would put it this Global Peace Summit into a larger scale, and the overall picture. Today we will have 3 topics discussed, 3 steps out of the 10 steps formula of President Zelensky, and these are nuclear security, food security, and the return of civilians, especially Ukrainian kids. And countries can choose, each country can choose what topic is interested for them most, and the plan will be drafted on each of these topics. About the success, well, of course, Russia tried to disrupt the summit because they pushed on different countries, special countries from the global south, African countries, not to come, to lower the representation. We see that it was not a success because Russians hoped that it will be just Western Europe and United States coming together. It's much more than that. It's all continents, absolutely all parts of the world.
Right, like you mentioned, we have been seeing a very impressive list of attendees, over 100 countries as well as organizations coming together, forming a unified voice to seek for peace in Ukraine. However, we cannot address the elephant in the room, that is the lack of attendance of China, citing the absence of Russia as the reason. Do you think that would put a setback to the international message of an isolated Russia, now that China has been clearly be in favor of them?
Well, I think that the goal of Russia was not just to China not to come to the summit, but also India, also South Africa, countries of Latin America, such as Brazil, Argentina. All of them sent their representatives. Some of the countries even sent the heads of the states, as Argentina in South America. So I think the goal was much bigger than just China being absent in the room, let's say that. But of course, we give the possibility to other countries join, for example, second peace summit, because of course it's just the first step, and the road is not a sprint. It's going to be a longer road. So we hope that other countries will join, seeing this unified force that was in Switzerland.
All right. A lot of commentators have been telling us that the topic that you were talking about just now, about nuclear security, food security, and the return of civilian, is actually a very brilliant strategy by Ukraine's side, using topics that everyone can get behind to kind of consolidate support for the countries. Do you see that being a success so far?
Well, that was actually the aim, to try to choose those topics that will not get, a very big debate, because who would be against the return of abducted Ukrainian kids or people that are somewhere in prisons in Russia? And of course, nuclear security, because who wants to live in the world when someone who has the nuclear weapons is threatening the rest of the world that will, blow it up? Or the food security. Special food security is a essential and vital question for the African countries, which are so far away from Ukraine, but still influenced by this war of aggression of Russian Federation. But it's also the way to speak about the real reasons why there is the disruption in food security in the world, because Russia blocked the marine of Black Sea. And by the way, the unblockage by our marine drones is one of the success of the last year, because we were able to put ourselves a corridor for the grain vessels to go out of our Odessa region ports.
Right, so like you mentioned, these less controversial topics might serve as a perfect icebreaker leading into the more contentious talk. And so far, it does seem like people are mostly on board with these more general topics. Do you think going forward, this will help smooth these world leaders and ease them into talking about the underlying issue that's causing these problems? Or will there be a rift when it comes to these more contentious topics?
I think it will depend on the military support of Ukraine at the same time. And we see that the ice broke as well in the military support because we got this package from United States. Europe is increasing the production of artillery. This month, we will get first of the artillery shells of this initiative that Czech President Petr Pavel started, buying out of the EU countries, outside of the EU, buying the needed ammunition for Ukrainian soldiers. So all these diplomatic steps has to be in line with the military success of Ukraine, because we need to be strong in the negotiations that might happen afterwards.
All right, so like I mentioned, the military support could maybe be a litmus test to the diplomatic support for Ukraine. As recently, we've observed that Germany has opened a joint tank manufacturing or repairing facility inside Ukraine. Are these sort of the signs that countries such as Germany are very optimistic about the capability of Ukraine achieving peace, being willing to actually put their money where their mouth is and building their facility inside of Ukraine?
Well, I think that very big success of the last half a year is signing the security guarantee treaties with different countries. And in each of these treaties, we do have the mutual production. And as you mentioned, the Rheinmetall already started a production together with Ukrainian companies in Ukraine. We also expect the same from American companies. So I really hope it will be, another push for American or German politicians in support of Ukraine, because they will have the German or American or other companies working in Ukraine. So it's all comes into the bigger picture of these treaties being signed. But of course, it's just the steps in between us joining NATO at the end of the day.
All right, very well said. And thank you so much for all your input and insight and helping us unpack a little bit more when it comes to this peace summit. Thanks for being with us on TVP World. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having this topic in me.